Ladies and gentlemen, underwater, seeking, plunging. Donald Trump's approval rating within 100 days of his presidency has gone way, way, way down. Let's take a look and listen to the reporting by MSNBC.
Underwater, sinking, plunging. These are not the terms you want to hear if you're a politician, but that's how President Trump is described in polling as he enters his 100th day in office. A slate of recent surveys, including from NBC News, shows voters venting frustration. The president's approval rating is hovering around 44%. That's one of the lowest on record historically for a president at this point in any administration. I guess the silver lining for Trump is that these are higher marks than at this point during his first term. But when you dig into key issues that drove Trump to victory in November, like the economy and immigration, you see serious warning signs for this administration. And joining us now to discuss, NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alchindor, along with former senior advisor to the Harris-Walz campaign and former Biden White House official Ian Sams, and former Republican Congressman from Pennsylvania Charlie Dent. Yamiche, the backlash to Trump's tariffs has really resulted in some of the lowest numbers ever on the economy. The latest New York Times poll finds half of voters say he's made the economy worse already. It's only been a few months. How's the White House responding?
Well, as you said, Anna, these are striking poll numbers and really are warning signs for President Trump, with voters saying that they're not liking what they're seeing when it comes to the economy, his tariff plans, as well as cuts being made to the government. That being said, the president is reacting to this. It's clearly on his mind. He, in an early morning post, said that these polls are fake polls from fake news organizations. He also said these people should be investigated for election fraud. And he said, add in Fox News pollster while you're at it, which is interesting because Fox News said President Trump broke his own record among recent presidents for the worst approval rating at the 100-day mark. The president also said pollsters are, quote, truly the enemy of the people. So it really is showing that President Trump is not just railing at the people that he usually rails at, but also he's railing at Fox News and others who, of course, are still dealing with the science and data of polling. It's sort of undeniable in this way. The president clearly showing that he's worried here, but also trying to attack pollsters as he's done in the past, Anna.
Yeah, Yamiche Alchindor, thanks for giving us a little pulse of the people there. Ian, again, the president seeing his lowest numbers on his top issue, the economy. If this is how people are rating the economy before the expected price increases have hit the market, how much longer can the White House ride this out before changing tactics?
Well, instead of lashing out, he'd be wise to listen. I think that if you look back at the election last year, all of us who were part of it or anyone who was paying attention knew that the number one issue on people's minds was the economy and the high prices that people were paying because of inflation. And we're still in the middle of an affordability crisis where millions of people across this country can't afford the daily necessities. And they don't see him focused on that. When President Biden won in 2020, everyone's top issue was COVID and fixing the pandemic. And so every day for 9 straight months, pretty much, he made it very visible that he was working on COVID, on fixing the pandemic and getting people vaccinated. And it saw positive approval ratings for 9 straight months, because when you were doing what you said you were going to do on the issue that matters most to people, you're going to see that reflected in the polls. And so instead, we've seen Trump, seeking more power, deporting people, doing anything but focused on prices, and then injecting these chaotic tariffs into the equation that are going to raise prices. So he should be listening and reflecting on the fact that the country is turning against him instead of lashing out.
I guess on one hand, Congressman Dent, on the big issues, President Trump is largely doing what candidate Trump said he was going to do: an immigration crackdown, tariffs, pardons for January 6th attackers, slashing the federal government. Isn't this what people voted for?
Well, they certainly voted for the tariffs, but I don't think they voted for this. Here's the Allentown Morning Call. Mack Trucks laying off people. The plant officials are saying it's because of the tariffs. But this is happening all over the country. Yeah, a lot of people did vote for the tariffs, but I don't think they necessarily understood what they were voting for. higher prices. It's a massive tax increase. And I think this is really driving his negative numbers, plus the way he executes his policy. Immigration, for example, he's still viewed somewhat favorably there. And even on the DEI stuff, he's got some favorabilities there. But the way he executes his program turns off so many voters. And if you look at these numbers, too, among independent voters, he is in real trouble there. And if you're a Republican in anything close to a competitive congressional district or state, you need to pay attention to that number above all the others we've seen here. But Trump's own chaotic way of doing things is hurting him, and it's affecting people's pocketbooks in real time.
Yeah, Ian, I want to talk more about the tactics we've seen the president use to accomplish some of his goals. We've seen him go after private law firms and universities. Now he's upset with the polling. He's threatening media outlets who conducted these polls, saying, quote, these people should be investigated for election fraud. How concerned are you that he's going to follow through on targeting anyone who doesn't bend to his will or promote the narrative he likes?
Well, he is going to target people who he disagrees with and who he perceives to be his enemies. That's what he's always done. And there's no reason to think he's going to change course now. I think that what the reality of the fact is, though, is that he's doing that because he sees his popularity slipping away. And so I think as he sees his popularity slipping away, he's going to start worrying more and more about his standing with the country. And he's going to see that he can't get away with all of these things that he's trying to get away with. Because you can get away with it to a point if you're popular, if you're doing things that people see as helping them in their daily lives. That's not happening. And so I think that as he lashes out, more and more voters are going to see that as a temper tantrum, frankly, from someone who's losing their popularity in the country. And you're going to see the effects of that in elections this year in Virginia and New Jersey, and elections in the midterms next year. You're going to start to see voters turning the page on this and choosing the alternative because they don't want to see someone who's clamping down on dissent, who's clamping down on our very values.
And we're seeing the decline in his polling approval. We're seeing protests now more and more in the streets for certain issues. We're also seeing backlash at town halls. We know that people have not been happy with the effects of Doge and Elon Musk, who's also very unpopular in the recent polling. Here was New York Congressman Mike Lawler's latest town hall. He appears to be the latest to contend with heckling over these Doge cuts. Watch this last night.
What specifically are you doing that warrants the label moderate?
So again, my record speaks for itself. I have been rated the fourth most bipartisan for a reason. Taxing the rich is not going to close our budget deficit. I hope you realize that. It really will not.
Congressman Dent, he's one of these swing district candidates, a Republican who's in a purple district. How do you think GOP lawmakers should approach this?
Well, certainly Mike Lawler's in a tough spot, as is every other Republican member in anything close to a swing district, as is the case with Mike Lawler. But it's hard to defend the indefensible at times. Take the income tax that Congressman Lawler just referred to. President Trump just said that he's going to eliminate the income tax with tariff revenue. Well, the income tax represents about half of all federal revenue, I think about $2.4 trillion in 2024. Well, and on the other hand, you got Scott Bessent saying they're going to negotiate deals, meaning that they're going to lower tariffs. So there's this utter incoherence in what the president is saying, making it extraordinarily difficult for congressmen like Mike Lawler and others to try to explain it, because you really can't explain it. This is crazy, and it's hurting these Republican congressional candidates who will be up in 2026, without a doubt.
Former Congressman Charlie Dent and Ian Sams, thank you, gentlemen, for the conversation.
Hi, I'm Andy Levian, General Counsel at the DN.
That was very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, really, I kind of, in a way, expected Donald Trump's approval rating to descend because of what she's doing to the country. Yes, people voted or may have voted for him. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, nobody voted for him, especially after his first term and his poor handling with the COVID-19 pandemic. And him saying that people should not have been vaccinated. And granted, that was the biggest issue, to where as opposed to Donald Trump, he had no plan. To where Biden, he had a plan. And his plan was to get the American people out of the pandemic that Donald Trump caused, and had no plan to get us out of. His approval rating is the lowest within 80 within 80 years than any other president. That is gonna do it for today's reporting, ladies and gentlemen. By NBC. If you did enjoy this reporting, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Firstly, and now secondly, if you want to make sure you stay up to date on all the things legal breaking on the side of politics, please hit the bell icon that is right next to the subscribe button below the screen here on the right hand side, and click the all notifications options. Thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, please follow me on my social medias that I will have linked down below. If you also want to stay up to date on all the things legal breaking reporting wise on the side of politics, I will be posting when I post a brand new legal breaking reporting analysis video on the channel on my social medias. That'll again be linked down below. On my social media as well. I'm on Instagram, Snapchat, Threads, as well as TikTok. Fourthly, ladies and gentlemen, please help me reach and achieve the goal of 160 plus subscribers. The reason why I'm saying 160 plus subscribers is because right after we reach and achieve the goal of 160 subscribers, we have more subscribers to reach and achieve. Right after we reach and achieve the goal of 160 subscribers. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, please stay safe, stay positive, and until my next legal breaking reporting. Please know that justice will prevail on the correct side of the law, despite Donald Trump and his illegal regime's unconstitutional, illegal executive orders. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I will have you guys add and take mental note or paper note that candidate Trump never said he was going to unconstitutionally sign unconstitutional executive illegal orders. Plus, he couldn't say that on the campaign trail.